It's fine. No biggie. But yeah, he was very sick. I know that my youngest has gotten very sick to where he's missed like up to 2 weeks at daycare at a time. Where like he can't shake whatever it is he caught. And they can't do anything if it's what?
That is true. Your little just sticks in it.
Mm-hmm. He just stays in it. Like if he gets sick, he
can't move on past a fever.
Mm-hmm. So if he catches any, what are they? The difference is what, bacterial versus viral, and one of them they don't give medication for, and so whichever that one is, that seems to be his most favorite to catch, because they can't do anything to help him when we take him in. They go, I'm really sorry, alternate Tylenol.
Mine typically gets a lot of bacterial infections.
Yeah. So, most of the time, daycare illnesses are like the runny nose and the coughs, but a stomach bug can wipe out an entire classroom. I don't know if your son was
your entire
there.
family.
Well, it can wipe out your entire family too, right? But I don't remember if your boy was at the school with mine when they had to shut down our entire classroom because the stomach bug had like the teachers and like 90% of the class was sick. Were you there when that happened?
I remember it, but I don't think we were there. I think you were telling me about it, and they kept giving it back to each other. Mm-hmm. Like no one could shake it because it was constantly getting given back to them.
Yes, and so they just shut down the classroom for a few days, super disinfected at everything, and we had to come back the next week. But I don't believe mine got sick from that, thankfully. Like, he was fine. He did not catch that stomach bug, but I remember hearing about it, and it was terrible. Apparently, it came out both ends all day long. Bad.
One of my nephews caught hand, foot, and mouth. Oh, so not foot and mouth disease like cows, right? It's hand, foot, and mouth. And it's where they get little pocks on their hands, their feet, their buttocks a lot, around their mouth.
In their mouth.
And, in their mouth, little ulcers and things. And I think it's viral. I'm not sure. I probably should have Googled that, but I don't remember us having to take anything for it. And I ended up catching it as an adult, and I'd never had it before. Fun fact, it's one of those that if you don't have as a kid and you end up getting as an adult, you get super sick.
Is this like when you get
then on top of that
as an adult? Super bad?
Yes, same thing. Very same thing. So I had also just had surgery a few days before, and so both of my legs were bandaged up to my hips. Oh, and gosh. I was sitting on the couch, and I was sick with this hand, foot, and mouth. And I didn't have like a bunch of pocks all over, but I did get them on my hands and my feet and my mouth. And it was just a few here and there, but I just felt so awful. So like I said, those were from my nephews too, and it's just, it happens. You can take out your entire family with a sickness real fast.
Yes, and I believe all of my kids have had hand, foot, and mouth at some point in time. Like, I think it's just one of those.
It's probably a good thing
that comes around. Maybe the youngest hasn't, but don't hold me to that. He could have. He's had everything. Anything's possible.
He's had a lot of things.
He's had all the things. So many things possible. Good hand hygiene can help prevent the spread of things, like, especially when COVID, everybody was teaching everybody how to wash their hands all over again. Because apparently, as a society, we don't know how to do that. But
also, daycare seemed to be doing it at a much younger age now. Like, they're doing it at school with the kiddos to help them be, I guess, more consistent with hand washing.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Good. I agree with that. I noticed that because his teacher actually was telling me Friday when I was picking him up that they were like, by the way, he has gotten so good at remembering to wash his hands when he goes to the bathroom. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy because we struggle at home with that one.
Yeah.
Like, they just want to get back to it. They don't want to have to stop. But
yeah, exactly. If mine touches another bird, and then because of the chickens and things, he touches them, and then he thinks he doesn't have to wash his hands, and I'm like, you have to.
Yes, they have cooties too. Animals have cooties. We got a whole episode on that. Has he not listened? Because we got a whole episode on that. how animals bring their own cooties. So speaking of
But
animals,
hand washing is number one.
but animals and cooties, right? So, tracking stuff in on your feet into your house is just as bad as tracking stuff in on your hands. And so that's why a lot of
Absolutely.
cultures have the shoe removal at the door. So you're not tracking
especially when you
anything.
have an infant or a young toddler who's still crawling a lot, because then they're putting their hands on the same floor you're walking on,
Mhm.
and then they take those little hands and put them in their mouth.
Yes. And so I'm not going to say that we're like the world's best people at that, but we've tried to be better about it, because it's not so much you're tracking in dirt. Like, yes, that's a problem in its own self, but it's that you're tracking in the stuff other than dirt that is stuck to your shoe when you walk somewhere. Because there is no clean floor. And I remember care where you are. There's no clean floor.
I remember when my little was new to daycare, we had a no shoe policy at the daycare in that room, which I think is an awesome thing to do, because all the snotty-nosed kids are in the common area, and you leave your shoes in that common area when you go into the baby room.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember that. That was a big deal, because then you're stopping a spread right there, because the babies are going to be on the floor. Like, there's no getting away from that. Babies go on the floor. That's where they learn how to roll and crawl and walk. So, having clean floors in those baby rooms is very important. And then anything that comes home from the daycare should be cleaned and washed or sterilized, like, from the moment you get home. I know we personally have a routine where the cup from daycare and the dishes from daycare, like, because we pack a lunch, it goes straight into the sink when you come home. It's not we carry this cup around and continue to carry the cup around. It goes straight into the sink, and he gets a new cup for at home. I don't like the cup being passed, because he's been touching stuff all day at daycare, and that cup is, not covered in cooties. And you don't know if they share.
The teachers are going to do their very best, but they're going to share.
Yeah, they're
going to share cups.
They're sharing cups, of course.
As far as jackets, there was another thing that I used to do too, which was the jacket for daycare was different than the jackets that we wore around to town. Like, if we went to church, we used a different jacket. And
that's
the reason I did that is because I didn't want to wash the clothes every single day. So I just kept it next to the door on a hook, and that one was the one that went to daycare.
So, we have a blanket that stays at daycare all week, and he brings it home on a Friday, and it goes into the wash. Usually on a Friday. Yeah. Sometimes it's Saturday, but it lives in the laundry room. It doesn't make it past the laundry room. But the only thing we have not been able to, like, stop from, I guess, from spreading cooties from daycare is, he's like a Linus, and he has his blanket that he carries everywhere with him. Mm-hmm. And so getting that washed on a regular basis is very
it's very difficult.
Like, we literally have to catch.
Well, they're going to have those comfort items.
Yeah, like,
they're going to have those comfort items.
And those are tough. So I know recently Lysol has changed, I guess, a lot of their products so that they're safe for use on clothing material. And so that's kind of nice, because if you need to get a quick spritz in, you could spray. Right? But maybe you don't have time to douse it in a bath.
Right.
Yeah, we really struggle.
And another
with
thing,
that.
If you're like around the high disease time, so right around before the holidays, when the weather's changing, there's a lot of sickness. Another thing you can do is you can change your bath schedule to where it's right when you get home. So they get bath time as soon as they get home. That helped my little a lot keep down the sickness around the holidays.
That is smart. I didn't think about that. I don't think. I just worry about him carrying that nasty ass blanket everywhere. Honestly, that's all I worry about. I'm like, it's super gross. I know it's gross. He carries it everywhere, except in grocery stores. I do draw a line. We don't carry it into grocery stores. Actually, we don't carry it into any store, but it's in the car the whole time. Like, so when he's back in the car, he's got his nasty ass blanket with him, because that's what he needs to survive the car trips. That's fine. Another way to help stop the spread of diseases at daycare is to keep your kid home when they're sick. Don't be that parent.
Yes, please.
A
lot of the common rules they say is like on antibiotics for 24 hours if it's a bacterial infection, or without fever reducing drugs. So if you give them Tylenol and the fever is gone, that's great. But when you stop Tylenol, it's got to be 24 hours without a fever.
Yes. And I think most
people don't do that.
I think a lot of people are like, well, I dosed my kid. They didn't have a fever when I dropped him off at daycare, so we cool. No, they're still spreading.
They only vomited 3 times last night.
Oh my gosh. For real, though. Don't be that parent. I have a friend.
But they haven't vomited this morning.
I have a friend whose little boy is always getting sick because there's like a family that brings they have multiple children, but they're sick. They all go to school. It doesn't matter. And I know she's been super frustrated with the daycare because the daycares can only do so much. I mean, if the kid's showing outward signs and symptoms, they can call the parent and be like, come get your kid. But it's still very difficult for them to have that control over the parents because ultimately parents can lie and be like, nah, my kid's fine, and still take them to school.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. That irritates me. I keep my kid home when they're sick. I lose work and pay and all that fun stuff that comes with it. But your child's care and comfort should come first, I think, in some of those instances. Hell, I've hired a sitter before to sit at home with my sick kid because I had to go back to work. I was out of time. And so you just have to make those decisions, I think, at some point. You can't just keep sending your sick kid to school because they will never get better. I'm going to come off my high horse now. I apologize.
And their immune system is down, right? So they're going to catch any new diseases that are up there because their immune system is down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all you can do is disinfect. I know.
I feel like a mouse with this giant hunk of Gouda.
I'm getting quite the kick out of watching you eat cheese on camera.
It's lovely though. Like, and this I really do. I'm liking this wine.
I like this.
Maybe
wine.
It's because I cook so much, enchiladas and things of that sort with the same flavors. But I'm really liking it.
I was just thinking I could probably use this to I make a green chili chicken like a soup.
I think it would be amazing.
Right? Like you could use this instead of a broth.
Yeah.
Do you imagine what flavor profiles that would add?
Let's do it.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to save some wine and make sure I use it for that. Because I like this. I'm going to have to get my husband to try it. I've
never seen a recipe with wine that used more than, say, a cup of it in the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
So just start with that.
Because
I think that's a little heavy-handed to do a full cup of it.
Really? That's how I do my roast. I put at least a cup. I pour until my ancestors tell me to stop. And they're like, that's good shit.
Well, you know me. I don't really measure. I just kind of go, nah, that's about a cup. I've made a lot of chili with wine, but I don't remember any recipe that I've ever read that was more than a cup. So start with that and see how it goes.
Yeah, I would definitely use this for cooking. That would be good. That would be good.
Anyway.
So we keep Lysol on hand. Like, we should probably buy stock in Lysol as a family. That's how much we keep on hand.
As a nation.
Yeah, like...
as a nation, we buy a lot of Lysol.
We need it. Like, I disinfect things as they come into my house. Backpacks. I'm trying to think. Shoes. On the rare occasion that I know that there's been somebody sick at school. I try to do that. When my kids are home and they're sick, they each get their own personal bottle of Lysol. That way, when they get up to go to the bathroom, they are supposed to spray the doorknobs and the light switches and the toilet as they finish. Because I'm that mom.
Wow.
I'm that mom.
That's like in a hospital.
I want you to know, though, that if somebody in my house gets strep, nobody else gets it.